Young and wild and free.
Hello and a very warm welcome. Hallo, ich kann auf Deutsch sprechen. Although my speech now will be in English. My name is Lukas and I'm going to talk about how I made it from zero to the first 100,000 with a product that hadn't ever even existed. What am I? I'm an entrepreneur. So basically my story started when I was 22 years old. Now I'm 29, I'm turning 30 in April. And the thing is that I always had something in my mind that I wanted to make more. I didn't ever see myself at a 9-to-5 job. I have a grandfather who was a painter. My mother has an advertising agency. So it was quite clear for me that I wanted to do something entrepreneurial. During my studies at the University of Applied Sciences in St. Pölten in Lower Austria, I was 22 and I had this vision. Because I had worked in companies before and I had seen how the training processes there were ongoing. So I was simply like, okay, people like to do things on their mobile phones. They like to learn, probably, sometimes more or less, and they want to learn it in a playful way. So at this time, I went to my studies director and I said, can I do the apprenticeship for my own company? And it was a discussion, and then they said, you know what, Lucas, you can do it. I trust that you might perhaps even try it. So by the age of 22, I went to a friend of mine whom I was in school with, and they have a big family company with over 600 employees. And I said to him, you know what, can I talk to your father about my concept? The concept at that time was a learning app without any special things or thoughts on it. So I went there. It was, I think, November 2017. I was extremely nervous. I wore a suit. I was simply just nervous, and I told them about my concept. And I said, you know what are your thoughts on that? And he and so on and so on. And he was like, how much is it? I then told him the price. I had no idea about pricing or anything else in a digital way. And he was like, okay, I'll buy it. And I was overwhelmed. I didn't really get what he said to me. I then went out. I went into the car and I cried because it was so overwhelmed. It was an emotional moment of that. Then I went home. And I stayed with my family at that time because I was just 22 years old. And I talked to my mother and asked her, what shall I do? And she said, go to the Chamber of Economics, to the Wirtschaftskammer, and simply found a company. So thank you, Mama, for this case. So I did this. And I can't write code. I don't have any experience on that. So I went to a friend of mine, and he has a stepbrother, and said, you know what? Let's just give me 300-400 euros and I'll do it overnight. Let's see what will come out. And I was like, okay, cool, job done. Because I sold something. I had someone who told me, yeah, I can do this. So I was like, okay, cool. That's it as an entrepreneur, that's it. He then gave me the product, the digital product. I didn't check it because someone told me that it was done. And then I gave it to the customer and he said, it doesn't work. Like, what's the main thing out of it? All right, and that was basically the real beginning of my entrepreneurial journey because I learned how to basically build the wires when the train's already going and you simply have to move and to keep going. So that's basically how it all started. And what I simply want to tell you is that you can sell your idea, what I'm going to tell you in the past or in the next few minutes, as long as there are people out there who want to buy it. And that was me. That was me at the university. There was a job fair. She was one of my teachers. And she said, you know what, you can have a roll-up over there. Simply position yourself. And that was the point where I met one of my first co-founders right there. So yeah, times have gone by so far. And it's been a pretty cool and intense journey. All right. So there I was. I had the first customer. And I was like, if there is one customer that would buy it, the whole world will do so because I have the best product. So I made up my presentation, and my presentation was a book, like literally. And I went there and said to the first customers or potential customers who gave me an appointment, I can do this, I can do that, I can do this, and of course this. And I didn't feel quite comfortable because I saw that the other person simply lost their interest in it. And I had a meeting with a CEO who taught me a lesson, because at the end of the meeting, he said to me, Mr. Snizek, Lukas, good what you do, but you haven't asked me what I need in 45 minutes. I wish you all the best for the next, and please learn out of it. So that was hard, but on the other hand, very useful for me, because I learned, I've thrown away my presentation, and I simply said, you know what, Lukas, just think about 3 questions that you'd like to ask every potential customer, and then listen what the people will tell you over there. And that's a big thing, because over mentoring by Snizek, a brand, or basically my consulting brand, I have it so often that especially young people with digital products, for instance, come here and say, I have to produce this feature, and then I have to do this, because this will be so cool. And my question nowadays is always, all right, have you any proof? Do you have any proof? I don't know, let's see. So that's basically the second input that I want to give you. Always be curious of your customer. And then, if you have the first customer or the second customer, focus on success stories. Also here, it's a people business. So I was basically then, for the first customer, I was quite nervous, because they called me and said, what did I pay for? What's basically the use that the product doesn't work? So I called Fleurop, the flower delivery service, and sent it to them and said, sorry, we are young, we're just trying to do our best, etc. And that was okay. Because when you found your first company young, people are okay with it, because you're still young and you have to learn, and people know this. And that's also a thing that especially these customers then were okay by giving us success stories. And especially if you only have 1 or 2 or 3 customers, focus on the success stories. Why? Because other customers, especially in the early stage, focus on other early stage customers and success stories which are being made out of them. Sell a bet. That's basically one of my key takeaways that I've gathered from over 7 years of sales. If you are with a person and you want to sell the person something that's already in your mind, but you haven't realized it yet and you know it, you can simply sell a bet. I have one of my customers, they have an AI software and they have their first customer, and we're discussing the pricing strategy. And he told me, what's the pricing? What shall I do? What shall I say the customer? Because he's the first, or this is the first customer. So if you don't have anything, sell the bet. Go to a person and say, you know what, I will reduce these costs. Or I will do this, I will have that impact on this case. Because the bet is always the thing that can't be taken out of you, because a bet is simply a deal that you make with a potential client that can work or can't work. But if it doesn't work, you still have tried it. Focus on the customers. That was extremely important, and especially at the young age with the second and the 5th customer, I was extremely into these customers. Like, we wanted to do everything to make the things work for our customers. And they also called us and said, you know what, please do a certain app and list it on the App Store with our color in it, and I don't like the color blue, I'd like to have it green. And we were like, okay. And after some time, we noticed that we couldn't do it any longer, or basically the whole system wouldn't scale, because we were so insecure about our strengths at that time that we simply did it. And after, let's say, customer number 10, we then stepped up and said, you know what, I like you very much, dear customer, I can give you this, but I also have to focus on this and that case. So, and we thought that probably most of our customers wouldn't understand it and would quit, but they didn't, because they were used to it. And that was also a huge learning for me, and like what we heard, how can I get my money, which benefit can my customer have out of it? Simply do it, because you then learn how it all works. And from a people perspective, people will do it, and people will trust you if you trust them. That's also a main key takeaway for me. All right, and then it comes to sales. So when talking about sales in a professional way and scaling sales, it's also a matter of numbers. So I first thought that for each and every potential customer, as I've mentioned, I had to tell him everything about it. All of the key features, although I knew that these features wouldn't be that appropriate for a customer. What we then did is we focused on selling the appointments. Like if you really have a first touch with a customer, you really have to get to know how the people will act upon you and whether there's a good fit or not. And within this first talk, or basically the first appointment, you then know whether the potential customer can grow to a real customer and you have a good business relationship out of it. And that's also very important. So we have a strategy right here that for the first appointment, you really sell the appointment. Like, I have a cool tool, I have a solution that helps this and that and solves this problem. Would you like to hear more about it? Then if there's a yes, then you're in the basically, let's say, consulting or sales process, which then has another aim. And especially for young entrepreneurs, they're also how I was back in the days. They simply want to sell every feature and every benefit and everything. And I say, you know what? Let's just keep one or two key benefits and two key takeaways and focus on that. So that's basically one of the main things. And then in sales, whether it's a software or not, you have the sales funnel. And the sales funnel simply has three phases. The prospecting phase, so a new potential client. Then the lead phase, in which a potential or more likable client turns into a potential customer. And then you have the customer phase. And what we've found out for ourselves is that we have two rates. We have the prospect lead rate and then the lead customer rate. And for instance, in our business, as we sell software in the B2B sector, we simply focus on numbers. So what we do day in, day out is simply look that the funnel itself is full with potential prospects, because over the years we've known that through the sales tactics, etc., you then get to the goal that you'd like to achieve. All right. Good. That's it from my point. I'm here for some time any longer, and thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you for sharing.